Hey there, welcome to the next section. So, this is probably the most important section in the entire course because it's all about delivering the message of what PowerPoint is. PowerPoint lets you put the slides together and gives you a means to do it, but how you present it to your audience and how you use it to connect with your audience and also to reinforce what you are saying from your mouth is extremely important. So I've broken this down into several areas that I want to cover to ensure that you guys have the best possible presentation, not only on PowerPoint, but also when you physically deliver it. So how you stand, how you speak, how you refer to things, making eye contact. So I've broken that down into 5 things. So it is looking into effective communication. We're going to look at the base structure of your PowerPoint presentation. We're going to talk about layout and sequence. We're going to talk about logistical considerations, things like we're going to be presenting. Are you using a TV? Are you using a projector? Is it a big hall? Is it old people? Is it young people? All those things you really have to consider in your presentation. And the last one, I'm going to give you oral presentation tips so that you're not going to become one of the thousands or millions who give bad presentations that are extremely boring. We don't want that. We want excitement. We want fire. We want it to be alive. That's the kind of presentation I want you guys to be giving. So those are the things we're going to be covering in this section. So let's get straight into it. I'm pretty excited. I'm very excited to film this. So let's do it. See you inside. Hey there, welcome back. So we are doing the first section, which is the PowerPoint content and base structure. This looks at the skeleton of your PowerPoint presentation. For me, this is made up of 6 main parts. Okay, that's going to have several slides for each probably. So you always want to start with a front page. You need to have a title in there that is specific enough so that when people read it, they go, okay, I have a rough idea why I'm here. Okay, it's the first thing they read, the title, because it's going to be the biggest thing. So it draws the attention of the eye very, very quickly, and it sets a precedent, right? Yeah, I don't know if that's the right word. It sets the mood also for how people are going to read and absorb what you're going to show them. If I put a title in there going, business analytic tools, you're going to be like, okay, there's tools, right? But if I put another title saying, how we can use business analytic tools to make more sales, then that's better, right? Then you're like, oh, that's actionable, that's kind of curious, it's intriguing. That's kind of what you want for your front page. So along with your title, you're going to write down who you are, obviously, especially if you are presenting to an audience who may not know you. Have your name in there. You should also have your qualifications. Again, this is a psychological thing. It establishes credibility. If you have, Jed Winto, whatever engineer, I don't know, a PhD or whatever it may be, it creates credibility. So people are more willing to trust what you're saying. All right. The next thing is date. Date is a kind of a funny one. I actually want people to have a date in there showing when they last updated or created their document. Because sometimes you go to a presentation and the date they have on it is from 6 months ago or 9 months ago, which means they haven't really worked on it or added anything new to it. Whereas if I see something and they had just built it like a few days ago or a week ago, I'm like, okay, cool, this is a new presentation, So again, it's a psychological thing. People may not consciously know it, but, you're processing this stuff. That's how the brain works. And lastly, maybe any brands or any branding or logos you may need to put on it. So that's kind of the stuff you put on your front page. The next one is the table of contents. Now, personally, I don't think you always need this. Sometimes you do if you have a lot of slides and a lot of sub-parts. Like if your body, if the fourth one on the list, if the body is made up of 6 different subsections, then yeah, maybe have table of contents. But if you're covering 3 things, just forget the table of contents. You end up just having a slide that's up there that's kind of a waste of time. And if it's only 3 things, you could always just tell people. It's much better for you to be leaving it up at the front page and go, all right, here's what I'm going to be covering. I'm covering this, this, and this, done. Right? That's your table of contents. Straight into the plot. Okay, which is the next one. So I'm approaching this from a business point of view when you're presenting. So usually you're presenting because you're presenting a report or you're presenting a new idea. Those are usually the lines, okay? So the next section is the problem definition. This is extremely important. If you do not define why people are there to begin with, what you're trying to solve, then they cannot connect the solution to anything. Because you can go up there and say, oh, there's a great new software we have. And they're like, okay, go on. Right? There's no connection. Whereas if you start with the problem and say, we are struggling to manage our data, there's too much, we're spending way too much time, way too much money on that. Then when you go into your body and you say, the solution is we should get this software, they make the connection of, yes, we need the software, or no, we don't, right? Then they can start establishing that. So plot and problem definition is very important. I'll show you how I come up with structuring that in the next video. The next section is the body and methodology. Here's where you'll be solving or providing solutions to the problem definition, okay? And also maybe presenting any results that you have from using that solution. Okay, that's the body. The fifth one is the conclusion summary. This should be just one page. And you should never, ever, ever, ever present new information. You cannot say, I have these results, etc. in my body. Then the conclusion say, oh, and also we discovered this. No, you cannot do that. That is not how conclusion and summary works. And also there's a little tip for conclusion summary, which is, instead of having a thank you slide at the end, which a lot of people do, just leave your conclusion summary page up there with 5 points of your conclusion and then say thank you and leave it up there. Because what happens is when you go, any questions, and all it says is thank you on your presentation, people have to search in their mind going, what did I see in this presentation? And you'll be surprised how short the attention is, or how much information the brain can actually store in that short a period of time. So by having the notes up there, they can go, oh yes, I remember him saying that. I actually have a question about that. Then you can spark the conversation, okay? And the last thing is something I learned in university, which is backup slides. Backup slides are slides that you may never, ever, ever have to use, but they're there in case someone asks a particular question, okay? So, for example, let's say you go, I want to present this new software. It's going to help our business. We're going to make more sales, etc., etc. I do my conclusion. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed. Does anyone have any questions? They can go, what are the pricing plans for this software? I'm glad you asked. I have these backup slides ready. And then they see it, and seriously, it makes such an effect and impact on your audience when you can anticipate the questions they're going to ask and provide a clear, succinct solution to that question. That is powerful. And that's what you want to be able to do in your PowerPoint presentation, okay? You want to be able to answer these questions, present the information to the people. All right? So that's the first part. That is content and base structure. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey there, welcome to the next section. So here we're going to be talking about the layout and sequence. This is very important. And a lot of people who start building a PowerPoint presentation usually just start building PowerPoint. I don't recommend that because you tend to start getting distracted with, making the slides perfect and getting all that ordered. And then the thing is, you get to a certain point of building it, then you realize this isn't what I want at all. And it ends up being a mess, and you end up wasting time going, I got to start from the beginning. So what I recommend is before you even start using PowerPoint, start with pen and paper, good old pen and paper, okay? And you want to start from the very top. What is the message you're trying to sell during your presentation, right? So let's go back to the example we had of, I want my company to buy this new software because it's going to save us a lot of money, right? You got to put it into one sentence or a few sentences. This is just for you. A few sentences of why you're even doing the presentation. What are you trying to tell people? I want my company to know that there is a software that we desperately need because we have all these problems that can be solved with this software. It's super easy, super cheap, and we really need it. It's going to make a tremendous difference, okay? That's your message. Then you got to start asking the following questions. Why do we need it? What's wrong with the current systems? How much will it cost? What resources are needed for implementation? Who will be the one to carry this change out? And what you're doing is you're pretending to be the audience member who's going to listen to your presentation. These are the questions they're going to ask, Okay? So pretend you're an audience member listening to your presentation. What are the things you want to know as audience member? Okay? And write out those questions. We're not answering them yet, just write them out. And the process of writing them out as questions is a technique I learned where your brain is really, really good at answering questions, no matter what the question is. And if you ask a negative question, you're going to get a negative answer. If you ask a positive question, you're going to get a positive answer. For example, if you go, oh, why don't I have any friends, right? Your brain's going to go, well, first of all, your socks don't match. You don't do your hair. You don't tip your waiters and so on. But then you can say something like, what can I do to make more friends? And your brain is going to go, well, you can go to meetup conventions. You can go start hanging out at this place. You can talk to your other friends and see what friends they have. Your brain is going to answer the question. So by starting off with the questions in your presentation, you're covering the audience. Okay? You're going to be answering their questions. Then what I usually do is once I've answered these questions, I put them on paper. Then I start putting it on the computer. And the reason I do this, it's just so I can much more easily reorganize where the points go. And that brings us to the next section, which is a plot, where we do a problem definition, the body, where we show our methodology, and then the conclusion, which is just concluding remarks. Once we have the why we're doing a presentation, now we got to put it into the structure. The idea behind this structure is like a movie. Okay, so I'm going to think of a movie where, for example, there's a samurai warrior and he lives in town and he minds his own business. He is a retired samurai master, and all of a sudden, some gangs come into town and they destroy his sushi business. Okay, so there's your plot, there's your problem. How is he going to take revenge? So that's the body. The body is him searching around from village to village, asking fights along the way, developing his skills. That's the body. That brings us to the conclusion. What happens at the end? Right? What happens at the end? At the end, he finds the gang. He takes revenge. He saves the village that they were terrorizing. And everyone is happy. Conclusion. Okay? So that's kind of the layout you want to follow. And as you're making a presentation, think of it as a movie. So again, with the plot, you are the problem definition. You want to really define the why am I, an audience member, even here listening to you. You need to really define that at the beginning. And the best way is, firstly, if you know who the audience members are, for example, if there's key stakeholders in your business, like it's the CEO or, the board of directors, you need to know, you need to make the questions relevant to these people. Because once it's relevant, then they will listen. Otherwise, people don't care. If something doesn't affect me, then wherever. That's how some people think. And in a presentation, you're trying to win them over. Okay? So that's what you really gotta be able to do in the plot. One trick you can do, actually, it's a little sneaky, is as you're doing the presentation and you're discussing problems, if you know a particular person deals with this particular part of the problem, you can mention them. You can say, Susie has struggled with this problem, and I feel that this solution really helps Susie, for example. Okay? So that's your plot. The next one is your body. Here you can go about solving the problem you defined. Okay? And the way I do it is, first of all, you say, here's how I'm going to do it. This is my proposed solution. Here are the steps I'm going to take. This is the help I'm going to need to do it. Okay, so those are the actions you're going to take. Then, if you have the result of your actions, okay, we were able to increase sales. We were able to increase productivity. We have saved this much money, etc. So that's a result of your action. The next one, very important, the next steps. What happens next? And who is involved in the next steps? Okay, we put in the software, everyone's happy. The next step is to meet with each person, make sure it's solving the problem. Who is going to be doing this? Jed is going to be doing this. If no person is assigned, no one's going to do it, right? So that's very, very important. The last one is the conclusion. Okay, conclusion. Do not introduce any new points in here, like I mentioned. And you only want to keep this quite simple. You don't want to have huge amounts of text in your conclusion because you just want to close things up. So you just want to say, we couldn't, we had a lot of problems with the data that we were struggling with. Point two, we propose a new software that is cheaper and more efficient. Step point three, such and such is going to be involved in the implementation. Step four, we found that productivity was increased by such and such. And then the fifth point is next steps involve meetings with key stakeholders. Okay? Very, very top level kind of summary of your entire presentation. One of the things you should do is, firstly, don't have a thank you slide because it's a waste of space. What I mean by that is at the end of a presentation, if you have just, thank you up there, people won't, the questions won't come rushing back to people. Whereas if you have the conclusion up there, it will help them think about, some new questions that they may not have thought about. Okay, so that is your layout and sequence. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you with the next video. Hello, welcome back. We are going to be talking about logistical consideration. This is sometimes forgotten, and all the work you put into putting a presentation together, all the work in actually generating the information for your presentation is lost because you did not think about the logistics of doing a presentation, okay? So this is talking about the physical part of a presentation, mostly, and kind of little things here and there about how you lay things out on your page, okay? So the first thing is you need to keep your environment in mind. I have been to presentations where the audio, the area is quite large, so it's like a hole, and yet for some reason, they use text that is like size 10. And what happens is, as the person is talking, you, an audience member, is squinting, trying to read what they have written. The problem with this is, me, the audience member, is trying to read what is on the screen. I'm expending energy to absorb what is on the screen. And what could happen is I could completely ignore what the person is saying because I'm focusing on the screen. I'm trying to read it. And then once I read it, it's like, oh, that says, the dog got the ball. Or no, what was that person saying for the last 20 seconds? And then you're gone. You're lost. Right, if you can't get back in there, then you pretty much lost the presentation. Okay, so rule of thumb, size 20 or higher, depending on the screen, of course. If your screen is humongous, then, maybe not 20, but test it beforehand. If you can actually go to where you're presenting and actually test it and check, see how it looks, stand at the back of the room, see how it looks. Okay, very important. And also rule of thumb, bigger is better, right? If your text is way too big during the presentation, they can read it. It's too big, might be a little bit weird, but it's much better than having it too small. Okay? The next thing is your choice of color. Okay? Choice of color is a funny one because I've seen people with black backgrounds and then dark blue text, which doesn't make sense because, again, I can't read it. So you really want to keep this simple, and the same goes for brightness. So if you have a white background and then you use yellow text, I'm not going to be able to read that. Again, you're competing for information against your PowerPoint slide, which is what you don't want. It needs to be an aid, okay? So you can use color as a focal point, as a way to, how do I say this? As a way to control where a person looks. For example, let's say you do have text on your screen on the left side. You can make it black, and that's fine. Or you can kind of just make it a little lighter, just slightly. People may not notice it straight away, but slightly lighter. And then have an image on the right that's super bright, okay? And the image is a reflection of what you're going to say, okay? So here's what happens. You go to the next slide, people see a forest. They go, ooh, a forest. He's going to talk about a forest. Then the left side goes, how many trees were cut down? Okay? If it was the other way around, it's not as effective. Okay, so that's your choice of color. The next is the choice of font. For headings, I don't mind having a little bit fancy fonts because it is supposed to draw attention, but sometimes the choice of standard font, where it's text, is really bad. You don't want to choose text where the letters are spaced too narrow. You don't want it to be super, super wide. You kind of want to go with the standard things like Arial Times New Roman, Calibri. You don't want to get too fancy with that kind of stuff, okay? The next thing is you do want to make it visually focused, right? I don't want to be reading heaps of text. Some people, I don't know why, they'll have a presentation and it'll be a title and then like 3 paragraphs of text, not dot points, as in like from a book, like written. And I'm like, I'm not going to read that. And if you're going to say it anyway or read off the screen, then just don't have it up there. Just replace it with a photo. Because then what I'm doing is I'm dividing my attention. I'm trying to read the screen. I'm trying to listen to this person. Me as a man, I can't do that. I'm not good at that. So I can only focus on one thing. Okay? So I prefer focusing just on the person. Another tip is you should make each new point that you're going to mention a new slide. Okay? At first, this sounds like, man, they have a lot of slides. But actually, it's a good thing because you should watch this presenter. His name is Seth Godin, S-E-T-H, and his last name's Godin, G-O-D-I-N. Guy's awesome. And he has a slide for almost every sentence that he says. And it's just the coolest thing ever and just reinforces everything he says. And also, if you have 3 or 4 different things on a slide, again, I'm trying to absorb too much at once. If you just shoot off one thing at a time to me, I can absorb it much easier. Yeah? The next thing is white and empty space. Don't overload your slides with heaps and heaps of stuff. Again, you don't want to be competing for attention with your PowerPoint slide. It's supposed to be an aid. Still don't have like 30 photos up there because then I have to go through each photo and, kind of absorb it. And that is just, that's just not on. That is just too tough for me. The next thing, and we're closing up now, is the complexity. I have been to a lot of engineering. I've been to engineering conferences and I've seen a lot of presentations. And there are equations there that are very, very long, very, very complicated. Nobody is going to understand these equations in 5 seconds or 10 seconds or 30 seconds, right? Unless you're super, super smart, but that's a small population, right? A small part of the population. So you don't, you can give details later if they really want to know, okay? But you can just say what the equation does, right? The equation does this and gives me this result. If you want to see in more detail, I can show you later. Okay, but skip ahead because anytime you give someone something on the screen that they have to work out, they're going to expend energy to work that out. And we only have a limited amount of focus that we can give during the presentation before people start snoring. Okay? So keep that in mind. And the last thing is animation. Do not have lots of things swooshing around. You don't want sounds of bomb, like, what was it? It was like bombs. You can have like typewriter sounds. You can have fireworks. Nobody needs those sounds, like they're just distractions. So unless you have a very special reason to do it, I would avoid it. The animations I usually do are just fade animations. I tend to do animations, object animations in a slide if, as I'm explaining the slide, I only need to reveal one part at a time. So for example, if I'm presenting an equation, I go, here's the equation and here's the answer. But if we change this part, then I do my next part of the slide. So I do it in parts. So again, one thing at a time. Just shoot off one thing at a time. So that's it for this one. Those are some logistical considerations you should keep in mind during your presentation. So I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you with the next video. Hey there, welcome back. So now we're going to talk about the actual presentation itself. So you have all things you keep in mind in terms of the structure of your slides, what you're going to put in there, what you shouldn't put in there, how you come up with the actual structure itself. Okay, now we're going to be talking about actually executing the presentation and things to keep in mind. The first thing I want to show you is what's called notes. Okay, so notes is very, very simple to use, and so I've decided to include it here on any slide that you want to be on, right? you want to go down here to the bottom where it says notes. If you click on that, it's going to expand this bottom section right here. And from there, you can actually type in some notes that the audience members won't see, but you will see it, like so. I play the presentation. This is usually shown on the laptop, and then the other one is the full one is shown on the TV or the projector. You will actually see the notes over here, and you could read off them if you like. However, and I'm actually just going to switch this over now, if you bear with me, okay, so I can get my ones going. You shouldn't, like, notes are good for a few points, but don't have exactly word for word what you're going to say in the notes and just read off that. Nothing infuriates me more than someone just reading off the screen. Because first of all, it shows that this person wasn't prepared. Number two is you're not engaging with your audience, because instead of looking at them, you're looking at your screen, right? So people aren't connecting with you. Second is you can't show emotion or physical movements if you're just sitting there looking at your screen, okay? Because you're trying to focus on that. What you really should be focusing on is my audience member, or are my audience members actually connecting with me? And the only way you can tell that is by looking at their faces. You can't do that if you're reading the screen, okay? So never, ever, ever read off the screen. Notes are there just in case you've forgotten something. So let's say you're covering 4 or 5 topics. Yeah, have the topics in there. Do not have what you're going to say word for word. That is horrible. The other thing is, on the screen, yeah, don't have heaps of text. Try and focus on just a video, just visuals, okay? So that's the first one. Make sure you use strong images. The next one is your script. Now, the script is interesting. I don't always use a script depending what I'm doing, but if it's something quite complicated, like I was presenting some research, there I want to be on point. And this is not about memorizing word for word what you're going to say, because that's a terrible thing to do, mainly because you may forget something and then you get stuck. You're like, God, damn, what was the next one? And you focus so much on trying to get back on track that you don't just naturally move on with the presentation. Okay, so here's how I prepare for presentations. I start using some sort of word processor. I use Microsoft Word. It's the easiest. You can use Notepad. You can use whatever you want. You can even do it on paper. And what I do is, for each slide, I write word for word what I'm going to say. Okay? I write it word for word, and then I read over it and over it and over it. This is the amount of preparation I do. And actually, if you read about how Steve Jobs prepared for his presentations, that guy was relentless. He would get everything on point. He would research so much on how he's going to do his presentation, okay? So I write up word for word, and I align it to which slide it's going to be with. And as you're doing this, you actually see that you may have certain parts of your presentation that do need to be restructured, because you're like, oh, I'm actually explaining this, but this topic refers to something I'm not going to present until 3 slides later. That needs to move forward. And I found that happened to me a couple of times. Okay, so I do word for word. Then when I know which section fits with which slide, then I summarize what I've written. And the way I do that is every sentence that I've written in Word, I make it into a bullet point. Okay, that's very, very easy. You can do that on, again, paper, on any word processor. Okay, then I know how many points I'm covering per slide. Then the next thing I do is I summarize each of those lines. So if I write something like, for example, this presentation saying, don't compete for attention if the slides are competing against you, then you're losing and you'll be struggling, etc., etc. That's a lot to swallow. So instead what I do is I summarize that and say, don't compete for attention. Okay? And then I've trimmed it even more. Then what I do is I actually run through my entire presentation as if I'm presenting it using this cheat sheet. And what happens is you see the point that you've written, and then you can actually build a sentence off that. So before it would have the entire word for word what you're going to say, but now it just says, don't compete for attention. So when I read that, I go, okay, I know what I'm talking about. Don't compete for attention with your slide, and then you can elaborate on that. And it seems a lot more natural than reading off a screen. Then once you've got that down, and you know exactly what you're going to say, and all it takes is that one line to remind you. Then I trim it even further. Instead of saying don't compete for attention, I write compete attention. Then I know exactly what that is. Okay? So I'm trimming it down. I'm compressing to the point where I can take a look at those 4 notes and go, okay, I know what I'm doing for this slide. I don't need to look at it anymore. Then you practice again. An additional thing that happens when you're doing this is you actually see how long your presentation goes for. I always time my presentations before I've actually given them, so I know how long it's going to be, because there is nothing worse than doing a 15-minute presentation with 5 minutes allocated for questioning, and you do a 19.5-minute presentation. That is very bad, very unprofessional. It shows that you weren't prepared and you could not meet the you couldn't meet the rules of the presentation. Okay? So after that, once I've got the dot points, I have that available. But now I am so confident, and I've gone through it so many times in my head, that I don't even need the slides. I don't need notes on the screen. I just need the image, because then I can look at the image of the presentation. Bang, clicks in my head. I'm covering 4 points. There I go. And what you're doing is you're actually walking around like a comedian. Okay? A neat little trick when you're when you do the presentation, as you're talking, because you're not reading notes or anything like that, you can actually move around the room. I don't know why people don't do this. You should move around the rooms. Okay? As you're presenting, walk around, stand on the left side of the monitor, refer to it with your hands, do actions with your hands, move to the right side, maybe walk up close to an audience member, and what's happening is, if you're stationary, people can look and watch you, and then they start to kind of get they struggle with the focus because you're just there and the eyes start getting tired. But if you're walking around and you're doing gestures and stuff, they have to actually track you. And by tracking you, they're paying attention to you. Okay, so that's a very neat little trick. And what else? Oh, 2 more points. You should let them know how long the presentation is before the presentation and how many slides. What this does is it lets people allocate an amount of focus before the presentation. So if I do a presentation, I go, okay, I'm presenting this new thing. It's going to take me about 15 minutes to do it. And we're going to go through about 20 slides. Let's do it. And what they do is they go, okay, I have to get through these 20 slides. And so it's about to take 15 minutes. Okay, great. And you can test this one time. Say you're going to do a 15-minute presentation and then run it for 25. You see how bored people are after 15 minutes. They're just like, this guy said 15 minutes, And the very last point is, when you're in a board meeting and there's just like a few people there, provide a printout of your presentations that they can scribble on, right? If it's something that they have to try to figure out, or it's kind of a little bit more complicated, it's nice having it in front of them. So as you're talking, they can sometimes go to it and go, oh, I'm going to write these notes. I'm going to remember to ask this question. Okay, so it just shows a little bit more preparedness. So that's it for this video. I know it's much longer than I usually do, but it's very, very important. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you at the next video. Hi there, welcome to the next section. We're going to be covering headers and footers. Now, this couldn't be simpler, and you should have these on your documents because it helps you track them, it helps you know when you've made them, it helps you see who has made them, okay? And also it marks the order of the slides. Now, whilst that's important to make sure you're reading it in the correct order, there's also another case where slide numbers are very useful, and that is when you're holding a cup of coffee and you're holding your slides and you're on the way to the presentation and you're ready to go, and then you trip on a piece of cord and you drop all the papers and you got to put them back together in like 5 seconds. Okay, so that's the other reason they're good. So let's begin with the date and time, and we want to go to the Insert menu tab. We're going to be using the header and footer. Okay, so let's go ahead and click that. All right, and from here, you're going to see 3 main things. The first is the date and time, slide number, and then the footer. Okay, and what you'll notice is there are slots here for where the headers and footers go. And I'll teach you how to rearrange the location and the size and formatting and all that. But for now, we're just going to get it in there. So to include the date and time, we click date and time, and we have 2 options here. We can either have update automatically or fixed. The difference is if I do fixed, for example, and I have it on the 5th of the 7th, 2017, if I open this in a week's time, the date on my slides will still be 5th of the 7th, 2017, because it's fixed. However, if I use the update automatically, if I open this in 5 days' time, this will say the 10th. Okay, on my slide, it will actually say the 10th. So there's two reasons, there's a reason for each. The first one, update automatically, is good for when you want to mark when the document was last updated, right, or last modified. The next one is really good for if you want to know the create date of the document. So if you want to have update automatically, right, you can create two things. The first one is you can put a create date on your title page, just your title page, and then as the footer, put update automatically so that you know when the last update occurred. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to use update automatically, and we're just going to set the formatting. There's heaps to choose from. I'm just going to choose the first one. That's as simple. We can also add the slide by clicking that one. And we can also add the footer, so we can write something like created by Jed Winto, or you can have your company name. You can write anything you want, okay? And the last thing, add this one as well. Don't show on title page. Sometimes you may not want your footers and these details on the front page, but you want it on everything else. So if you don't want it on the front page, just click this, okay? So if we go apply, that's only going to apply it to the slide we're working on. We want it to be applied to every slide. And the reason we're not seeing it is because we ticked the do not apply to title page. So anytime you have this title slide used, you will not see the header and footer. So let's go back in there and let's unclick this so we can see. And instead of pressing apply, I want to do apply all so that it applies to every single slide in the document. Okay? So, oops. Forgot to tick these. Let's go and then apply to all. And what you'll see now is I have my name, the date, and the slide number. And that's all there is to footers and headers. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you at the next video. Hey there, welcome back. So I'm going to show you how to format your headers and footers and slide numbers. Now that I've gone ahead and changed the design just so you can see it a bit more clearly. In the last one it wasn't so clear. So I've got the headers and footers there. Now the problem is they're a little small. I just want to increase the size and maybe apply some bolding or some formatting. Okay, so here's how you do it. It's quite simple. Let us go to the View menu tab. I'm going to introduce you to something new called the Slide Master. So go ahead and click that. I'm going to come to this layout. Now what you'll notice is there's no data in here, so don't be scared. If you have stuff on your slide, it didn't get deleted. What this is the template itself. Meaning, if you change this format, every time you use this particular slide design, it will apply the same formatting. So this is a very convenient way of formatting your entire document. Because let's say you use this particular slide 12 times, right? You don't want to go into each one and format it. Instead, you can go here into the Slide Master and make a change, and it will apply to all your slides. So I'll go into that more detail later on. But what we're going to look at are these headers and footers. What you're going to notice on the left is we have one slide that's slightly bigger than the other. That's because that's the big daddy to the rest of these slides. Meaning if we adjust the headers and footers in this one, it's going to apply it to the rest. Now, if I don't want that, I just want to adjust on a particular slide, I can just go into that individual slide and make the change there. But I want to do it for the entire document, so we're going to start on this first one. So to format it, it's like formatting any other text. So we go in there, we go to the Home menu tab, and we simply format it using any of these functions that we want. So let's say I want to do center justify. I want it to be size 14. I want it to be bold. I can change the font and so on. So let's do that for the next one. Let's go there. Let's make it 14. Let's make it bold. For the last one, let's do the same thing. Click on that one if I can. There we go. Go 14. Center justify and bold. And if I go to the other ones, you notice that the rest are exactly the same as that first slide. Okay? So that's how you do formatting for your headers and footers and how to apply it for the entire document. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you at the next video. Hello, welcome, welcome, welcome. Now this section is really cool because you can do so much with so little effort. And I'm going to show you exactly how to do that. And what we're focusing on is what's called master views. And from master views, we're going to create our very own customized template that you can reuse over and over and over again. So I'm going to show you is what's called the slide master view. And in that view, we can design the back-end template of our document, meaning every time we create a particular slide, we're going to use the template that we built. Okay, so it's very easy to format everything. The next thing is I'm going to show you what's called Handout Master and Note Master to help you with the printing process. And then finally, we're going to create our own theme. We're going to save it as a template, and then I'm going to show you how you can load it and use it for yourself. Okay, so let's get straight into it. Enough talk, enough chit chat, and I'll see you inside. Hey there, welcome back. So we're going to begin with the slide master view, and I'm going to show you exactly what that does. So let me go into new slide first. Okay, these slides that we have are ones that are part of the template, which means we can load those up and they have preset formulas. Now, instead of using the ones that Office has built, we can actually customize those ones or build new ones of our own. And that's done through the slide master view. So let's go ahead and do that. And to get to the slide master view, we go to the View menu tab. We go to Master Views and we click on Slide Master. So let's go ahead and do that. And our screen is going to change. Now, if I have content in here, right, no matter what it is, it's going to temporarily disappear. It'll still be there, but you're not going to see it when we go into Slide Master. So I go ahead and click that. And the reason for that is this is the template that you're using, not the data that's contained in it. It's just the template. And what we can do from here is we can actually modify the template that we have so that when we go back to our document, all the formatting for that particular slide or that layout, for example, this one, if we change this formatting, every time we use this slide, it's going to have the same formatting. Okay, so let's begin with what the master slide is and then the sub-slides. This here is the master slide. As you can see, there's little branches that go off, and these are the sub-slides here on the bottom. And what happens is, if I change the font in this one, in the master, it will apply it to the other ones as well. So let's go ahead and do just a quick sample, just so you can see how the master works. So if I, for example, change all this to Agency FB. The rest will also change to Agency FB. Okay, so if you want to do a mass edit, you can do it on this first one, which is the master slide. If you only want to customize a particular layout slide, for example, this one, you can modify this, but it will not change any of the other ones because it's a sub-level slide. Okay, now to add a new master slide, we can click here. Okay, and it's going to add it to the bottom of the first master slide. So you can see we have a number 1 here. And if we go all the way down to the bottom, this is the new one that we added. It's exactly the same. Okay, and we can add new formatting again. All right, so, but we don't need that. So let's get rid of that for now. Okay. Okay, so we go back into here. Now let's say I wanted to add my own one. It's very easy. I simply click Insert Layout. So let's say I want one with a chart or something like that. We can add those elements in. So let's go Insert Placeholder. So to get to that, it's just to the right. So Master Layout, Insert Placeholder. So let's go ahead and click. And we can add a text box. Here we can also edit the font of all the indent levels. Let's go back here. I can also add a chart. Let's say it's over here. Okay, so if I go ahead and close this now by selecting Close Master View, and before we do that, we should name this. So we can go here, go to Edit Master and click Rename. So let's go ahead and click that, and let's just call it Custom Layout Test. We go Rename. Okay, then we go Close Master View over here. Okay, and we go back to where we were before. So now if I go to New Slide, we can see our custom layout test right here. Okay, so we've created a new slide template for this template. Now, let's say I have an existing one and I want to modify it. It's very, very simple. Let's go back to actually, let's insert that so you can see what it looks like. There we go. And that's the layout that we built. Okay, so it's very, very useful. And we can insert as many of those as we want. Okay, and each one will have the same formatting that we set in the slide master. Okay, so let's go back to that slide master. All right. Now, let's say I wanted to modify. Let's pick one here. This one. Let's say I don't want this text at the bottom. I want it at the top of that box. So I can go into Format, and I can do any of the formatting I want to do. Is it in this one? I think I'm in the wrong one. It is in Home, sorry. And we can change the alignment. So if I go in here, I can go to Top. And this slide is called, what is this one called? Slide Master. This one is called Section Header. So if I now close this, and I add Section Header, I can find it. Here it is. The text is at the top. Okay, so that's how the Slide Master works and what it's used for. So I'm going to show you all the extra stuff that you can do with it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you with the next video. Hey there, welcome back. I'm going to teach you a few new things. We're going to look at theme options. We're going to look at color selection for your theme. And we're also going to look at headers, footers, and the title tick box. Okay, so we're going to go to the Slide Master view. And we go to the View menu tab. I'll show you again. Master Views and Slide Master. Sifu slide, if you know Japanese. Okay, so we have let's just pick a slide here. All right, this is a really good example. So we have the title section here. We have the header, we have the footer and header details here. So you got the day, you got the footer, you got the slide number. So we can actually control whether that appears on the slide or not. And we can do it just for this one. If we wanted to do it for all of them, of course, we'll apply to the Slide Master. But for now, we're just going to do this. And what we want to do is, if you go to the Slide Master tab, and we have these tick boxes here for title and footer. So if you don't want this one to have a title, oops, what I press, you can just click title, and that gets rid of it. And you can click this to get rid of footers, okay? Alternatively, if you accidentally delete this, that's okay. You just click title again, like so, to bring it back. So that's an easy way of hiding those main elements. And I press another button. I think 6 sugars in my coffee is just way too many. I'm gonna keep back on those sugars. So the next thing I want to show you is themes. And themes, like you know, is one of my favorite things because it makes it look like I'm more skillful than I am. Okay, so I've got the slide here, and I can go to Slide Master and select themes. Now it's the same as applying design themes when you're in the regular view. Let's go ahead and apply one. Very easy, like so. Okay, and then let's go up to here. Okay, and what we can do in this view compared to the normal view. In the normal view, the formatting of the background, the elements is fixed. So all the imagery, but in Slide Master, we can actually edit it. So I can actually change these elements, right? You can't do that in the regular view. So that's why there's a very big benefit in doing it in this area. We can change shapes, any of the graphics. We can do all that in Slide Master. Additionally, we can also change the color of this theme, and that's very easy. If we go to Background and we select Colors, and there's heaps to choose from, we can either choose the standard one, which is the Office versions up here, or we can choose our own one, or you can even customize your own one and select the images that you want. I have never actually done this. I guess if I was doing some sort of branding, like working for a company or doing some consultancy work, and it needed to match the branding of the company, then I would use this, but I so far haven't needed to use this. And let's go pick a color. And I am feeling very bright today. Let's pick like the brightest one we can find. And that looks the same. There's no bright ones here today. I don't know what's going on. Ooh, there we go, violet. That looks cool, okay? And because we applied it to the Slide Master here on the left, it's applied the same color to everything else. So very, very useful. So that's that, and that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you with the next video. Hey there, welcome back. I'm going to show you some font options that we can do, some effect options, and also some background styling options that I can show you. So let's first begin with font. Okay, so I'm just going to delete this because I was testing something default. And we want to go to the Slide Master, of course. We go background, and we're going to be working with these three functions: font, effects, and background style. So go ahead and click fonts. So I'm going to apply it to this one. If I go fonts and I hover, I can actually change the style of the document. Okay, and this will apply it to everything in your template. Okay, so there's heaps to choose from in here, or you can customize your own one by clicking on this at the bottom. And you can pick your header font, and then you can pick your body font and then give it some sort of name. Okay, this area on the right is simply just a sample of what you've chosen. So that's very, very simple. Okay, so we'll cancel. The next thing I want to show you is effects, which took me a while to figure out what this thing was for. Right, I had to kind of do some Google searching to figure out what this was for. Okay, and what it is every time you use quick styling, it has a certain theme that you can apply using this effects button. And then that's so that every time you use a smart art or quick styling for text or word art, it's the same theme applied to everything. Okay, so let's go choose one. I'm going to choose this one right here because it's just super obvious. All right, so the grunge one. And the weird thing is when you click it, it appears like nothing changes. So that's why I was confused at first. So if we go outside of master view, okay, I'm going to insert some text. So let's use smart art. Okay, so this affects changes more than just smart art. So it changes smart art, changes shapes, changes word art. And let's just choose a basic one. Go okay. And what happens is the smart art styles over here on the right has the pattern that we chose in the effects option of the Slide Master. So I'm going to leave it on that one, right? Let's go back to Slide Master. Let's change it and you'll see the effect. So let's go effects. Let's change it now to this one. Okay, we close master view and now it's updated itself. Let's do that one more time. Slide Master, let's go effects. Let's now choose this one, Riblet. Close master view, and again it's updated. Okay, so we now have Riblet options there. So it's a slight thing, but again very useful if you want to modify everything. So let's move on to the next one. Let's go back to Slide Master. So the next one is the background styles. Now this one is very, very straightforward. We have different colors you could apply to the back. And if you don't like these ones, you can customize them yourself. So you go Format Background. It's going to open up this pane on the right. We have a number of options. We can do a solid fill, meaning just a single color, right? So we do that. We check the color of what we want, and then we can set the transparency. That's one option. That's usually the one I go for. You can do a gradient fill. And a gradient fill, you notice, is it's lighter in one area and darker in another. So there's a gradient. There's a change of color. And there's heaps of things you can change in here. So let's just go through that quickly. You have preset gradients that you can choose from. So ones that are more full than the others. So we can do that one. We can have a red one. As you can see, we can change it from linear, radial, and this really shows which direction the gradient change is going. We have one with a pop from the center. We have, can't change that one. We can change the direction of each one. We can change the angle. So seriously, there's so much you can modify here. You can change where it changes. As you can see, there's a slight movement there. We can change that one. We can change the color. We can change the position, transparency. There's heaps and heaps you can play with. I usually just use a preset if I do need to use that. Then third one is you can either use a texture or upload a picture yourself. And that's very easy. You can do one from the clipboard. So one's images that are already available in PowerPoint. You can get one from online, or you can get from a file that you already have. Okay? In terms of texture, we can choose ones that are already here. The picture settings, we have some of the additional settings for these. So heaps to go through. You can have a pattern fill as well. Right, so heaps of options for background, and if you don't like that, you can just go reset background. Okay? And if you do like it, you can apply to all. All right? So those are just the buttons down here. All right? And the last thing is, I just want to show you this hide background graphics. Like so. And that's just if you wanted to hide the background for that particular slide. Okay? And that's all there is to the background option. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you with the next video. Hey there, welcome back. I'm going to show you just one thing with the slide size and layout. So we want to go into the slide master view, and we want to go to size. And from here, we can actually select if it's landscape, portrait, or even what kind of landscape ratios you want. So let's go ahead and click that. We've got two main options here, which is standard. And when you click on it, it's going to ask if you want to maximize or ensure fit. That only, what that means is if you have content on your slides already, it's going to control whether, how the sizing is once you've changed the slide. So for example, if you change from landscape to portrait, if you do maximize, it's going to fit everything in there, but it may not look too good, right? Because it's trying to squeeze everything in, whereas ensure fit is going to get everything in there. But again, the scaling, it may not be right. So what you're going to have to do is play around with it a little bit, because it's all dependent on what data you actually have on your PowerPoint slide. And do ensure fit by clicking that, and that applies that one. So we can go standard or widescreen. In addition to that, we can actually customize if we want to. So we go custom slide size, and from here, we're going to start on the right with orientation. With slides, we can set it to be in portrait or landscape mode. So I'm just going to do one at a time. Let's do portrait, and let's go OK. And let's go ensure fit, and it's going to change everything to portrait. All right, we can do that again. Let's go custom slide size. And then for notes, handouts, and outline, that's for when you've printed it out, how it's going to size on the page. So let's go landscape. Like so, we're not going to see anything simply because it only occurs once we get to the printing stage, which in my opinion may not be affected too much because when you get to the printing stage, you can always edit the layout yourself. Okay, so that's all there is to changing the layout of your slide. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video. Hey there, welcome back. So in this one, I'm going to show you how to save what you've done as a template and then how to reuse that later on and just load it as a template. Okay, so it's very, very easy. All we're going to do is we're going to save it like we're saving regular file, but instead of saving it as a Microsoft PowerPoint file, we're just going to save it as a Microsoft PowerPoint template. Okay, so it's very easy to do. Let me get my drawing tool. We're going to go to the File menu tab on the top left. Go ahead and click that. We're going to go to Save As. We're going to go to Browse down here at the bottom. And then we can save it basically wherever we want. Microsoft Office on PowerPoint has a particular folder designated for templates. So what you can do is when you go down here to the bottom where it says Save As Type, we're going to go to PowerPoint template. So go ahead and click that. And then what you'll notice is your destination will change to the custom Office templates. So we just go ahead and press save. I've actually done it before as a test to make sure everything goes up and up. And then you press save, and then you've saved as a template. So what happens is if I close this and just minimize everything, okay, and I open PowerPoint, and then I click on Personal, that's my file there. And I click that and I can load that as a template. So create, and that's a template, and I can start using it. And I can load this up as many times as I want and create as many files as I want. The other way to do it is this. If you have no other PowerPoint document open, it will go into this menu here. Okay, but sometimes you'll have one or two open, so you want to be able to do it whilst you're in PowerPoint. So I'll show you how to do that. So let's say I have some file open, like so. I can go to File, New, and then from here, select that template. Okay, and that's as easy as it is to save the template and load it. So I hope you guys enjoyed and see you at the next video. Hey there, welcome back. So I'm going to also show you another two master views, and they are called Handout and Notes Master. So before we go into the details of that, I'm going to show you what they do. Okay, so if we go to the File menu tab and we click on Print, right, we can print the whole thing, or we can print, as you may know, with 6 on a page, or we can print, I've only got 2 on there. Let's say 4 per page. So the other 2 would be here. Okay. And we can also print this other layout, which is the notes page, right? Now, the thing is, you can do all your layouts, your orientations in this print view. It's perfectly fine. You can even add your headers and footers. What you can't do is adjust the formatting of those headers and footers, okay? And that's where the Handout Master and the Notes Master come in. So let's go back. In my document, I have some headers and footers, all right? So if we go into View, we go to, let's start with Handout Master. This is the one where you have multiple slides per page. Let's say we got 6. That's what it's going to look like. And in this view, we can modify these fonts, these headers and footers. In the slide master view, we're creating headers and footers for each individual slide. In the Handout Master, we're creating headers and footers for the printed document itself when you have more than one slide. So from here, it's just like modifying text. So from here, we can go into format, and we can apply all sorts of text. So we can make a red. What else can we do? We can make a blue border, orange background, and so on, so that when we print it as a handout, we will have that same formatting. We cannot do this in the printing view. Okay, so it's very similar for the Notes Master. If I just get out of here, if I just go Close Master View, we go View, we're going to click on Notes Master. So go ahead and do that. Click. That was a computer sound. And from here, we can again adjust the headers and footer formatting. So just like a text box, very, very simple. You can adjust the formatting on this one as well if you wanted to. So that's all there is to Notes and Master. I wouldn't do more than that in terms of formatting, because you don't really need it. You kind of want to keep these documents simple, because the attention should be on the slides themselves, not the handout. Okay, so that's it. So I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.